Issue 51, Combat Patrol. 2 new paints and an introduction to the Leagues of Votann. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games, and today we're going to be looking at issue 51 of Hachette Collection's Combat Patrol. Now in this issue you get 2 brand new paints, but you also get a collection of data cards that we'll have a look there at the end of the video. Now the good thing again about paint issues, of course, is that it's always an opportunity for some lore, but because we're fairly advanced with our paint issues at this stage, the paints that you're being given are very good in kind of giving little edge highlights or touch-ups for some of the models you already have. So again, going back to even your very first Ultramarines, again you can still use the Pallid Witch Flesh or the Pink Horror to touch up, say, the books or the Purity Seals or even the faces on some of the models. And it's not just the Space Marines, you get to use them on the Eldari and other models such as the Tyranids. So again, there's a nice little paint guide here, just kind of giving you tiny little magic touches, especially for the Tyranids that would kind of, you know, doll up the actual minis that you have. Now you have a good little bit of lore here on the Leagues of Votann. Now the Leagues of Votann will be the newest faction in 40k. They're essentially space dwarfs, but they came out there a couple of years ago and are quite popular. Essentially, they are a race of clones, smaller in size, very kind of dwarf in the sense that they're good for mining and very profit-driven, things like that. But they're essentially an army of clones, and they are big seekers of knowledge and resources. So they are around what are called kind of galactic ancestor cores, which would provide them with the bulk of their technology. So they're very technology-based. But the problem is with some of these cores is the cores that they're going a little out of date or they're showing their age. So sometimes there is failures in the cores, but they're doing their best to kind of sustain them. The kin at war are very pragmatic. So again, not that life is cheap for the Leagues of Votann, but they will spare their warriors if there's a pragmatic decision to do so. But they won't hesitate to kind of send them into the battle either. They reside predominantly at the galactic core, which again, like an underground type of aspect, as it would be in, say, fantasy dwarfs. But the galactic core is a place that not many races can stay, but the Leagues of Votann are good at doing that. The Chronicles of the Kin basically show how they left from Terra. So these would be kind of like an alternative species or cut off from humanity. Obviously they went their own way a little bit, but they would trace their origins back there. And they would have different kind of names for different areas. So you'd have the Orgrar, which is the Great Rift. So they don't see it as a single phenomenon, but as a collection of areas and warp storms. You have Warp Zone Bastia, where they would actually deliberately travel to fight as mercenaries, so they could learn about the fighting styles of other races. And you have the Chalnath Expanse, which is the conflict between the Imperium and the Tau Empire, which is interesting because an interesting part of lore of late is that maybe some of the Tau got their advanced technologies from the Leagues of Votann, because the Leagues of Votann, although they may have came from Holy Terra way in the past, they're not loyal to Holy Terra. They're loyal to the Ancestor Cores. You also hear how to play a narrative campaign in 40k, which of course is a big part of the fun for these games. So what this does is it gives you different campaign settings, different scenarios, or kind of goals for the different factions, how to play the campaign, how to use the combat patrols to do so, playing games and winning the campaign, and a nice little score sheet here as well. So part again of the fun of anything Warhammer is the fact that you can use your own imagination. And you can see here as well, you have the start of your Leagues of Votann in the next issue along with the first section. So Leagues of Votann are something I've never painted before, so I'm looking forward to painting them. You get 2 paints. You have Pink Horror and Pallid Witch Flesh, which again are good for, say, the Security Seals or some of the Tyranids, depending what way you painted them. And Pallid Witch Flesh is good as a kind of a subtle highlight for white-based monsters or marines. You have here, which is just kind of like terrain pieces. So this is pretty cool in the sense that it just helps you with your combat patrols and battlefields. You have here some data cards for the Leagues of Votann, so you can see what's going to be coming up in further issues, such as the in here Hearthguard, which is kind of like a big chunky, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit, big chunky stompy kind of Leagues of Votann fella, one of the heavy hitters. You have here this same guy again. You have here the Hearthkin Warriors, so these will be the standard lads, these are the rank and file infantry. You have the Cal, which will be the leader, and he's what's coming next issue. You have the Chthonian Berserks, which are basically the lunatics that will go in and hit things with axes, probably the toughest miners. And you have the Hernkin Pioneers, which are the guys on the quad bikes, which will be a great couple of issues to collect because these are very interesting looking models. You also have some data sheets for the orcs, and you have a Boomdaka Snazwagon, which is something that is coming up, and I'm very much looking forward to getting it and painting it. So you have 2 of those, and you have here some interesting kind of just basically tack aids that kind of give you an idea of what your characters can do, what they are like. In some cases there's a double of them because one for each player, so again, just kind of handy little cheat sheets. So you get a few of those, including one for the orcs. So that is everything in issue 51, a paint guide, which is, to be fair, handy for the little stats, some interesting little lore, and for the campaign narrative. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and until next time, this is Sean from The Lucky Roll, signing off.